Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm your guy Dawson. Say what's up to everybody, Denise and Z Marie.
What's up?
Hello,
Did you miss
hello.
me? Remember that song? Did you? I just want to know one thing. Did you
Of course I did.
miss me?
All right, I'm gonna let you all take that little show on the road. But anyway, okay, we want to talk about this subject. It's been in the news about transgender people, but as well, we want to talk about not only that because we know that R. Kelly's daughter, decided that she wanted to be have the surgery and go from female to male, and so many people have decided to, go ahead and live out their, whatever they feel on the inside. So we want to talk about this particular subject: men who are attracted to transgender or women who are attracted to transgender.
Yeah, because you can't forget Chaz.
Exactly. Are they gay? Are they confused? Or do they just like both? I mean, what do you guys think about that?
From the cases that I studied, that I didn't study, I've seen that they're no longer confused. They believe that's who, God intended them to be.
Mm-hmm.
So they finally believe that they're walking in their truth. So
Many
Yeah.
of them do.
I'm sorry, Dawson, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Miss Z Marie. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with J-Lo, or I agree with Denise because I think, spiritually they probably always felt like that gender that they weren't. And so as far as they're concerned, now they're aligned. Now they've got it right. And I do know some cases, at least I read a book about it, where a woman, she said from the beginning she was different. She, not only did she act different, but she felt different inside. And I think that's really probably the impetus to go ahead with the surgery if you really do feel like you're the opposite gender inside, that is not just about, your sexuality or the way you want to dress, but they actually literally feel like they're in the wrong body. I think that's what probably, makes them take the or do the surgery, because the surgery is pretty expensive. So I feel like it's a choice that you're not coming back from.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. Something's going on over there with Denise. You okay, Denise? Y'all throwing pots and pans?
oh, you can hear that. I'm sorry.
Yes, I heard all of that. You didn't mute anything. But anyway, you're
I
absolutely
was
so
just
right.
trying to get my fries out of the pan.
Okay.
But
Anyway,
I do
you're so
agree with Zahar, Z Marie, when it comes to that, because you're talking about thousands of dollars, $10,000, $80,000, depending on what you're getting, to be faking the funk and to not be taken for real.
Mm-hmm. And most of them want to be taken for real. And I have a letter here that I want to read to you with you guys. It's you ladies. It says, "My boyfriend is having sex with a transsexual," and this is coming from Annalisa. And it says, "2 days ago, I found out through emails that my boyfriend of 5 years is making appointments to have sex with transsexuals. He had sent more than 60 emails over a couple of days to several different women throughout the city. Her boyfriend travels. He's a traveling salesman, so he flies, to several cities, pretty much." And she said today she finally got the courage to confront him. He told her that TS was the first, he first started this when he was 19, about 8 years ago. He considered it an easy target and said that he calls them half men, and told her he just wanted a blowjob. Through the email, she stated that she realized that he wanted more than just a blowjob, that, he wanted intercourse with these transsexual. She said that he swears that he is straight, and stated that some of his friends have done this too, and that many guys, like transsexual, it's not a big deal. She told him, that it makes her feel nasty, she feels ashamed, and what if his family would find out, and all this kind of stuff. Her question rather is, she told him, let's go to therapy. She wants to know, does therapy work? She was like, what would the outcome be? Would he stop liking transsexuals? She was like, because it's not the same thing. She was like, they are not totally women, according to her. She feels that he is, bisexual at the least, because he's sleeping with she-males. She said she feels upset. She feels, disgusted by it. She's thinking, she said she doesn't want to end up one of those people married to him down, years down the road with thoughts of suicide, contracting other STDs, and with their religion, it doesn't agree with it also. What do you guys have to say for Annalisa?
To let that man live his life and what he wants, and stop trying to change people and stop trying to take people through the changes. And I want to go back to the trend or whatever it is when it comes to the transgender. Once they get that thing done down there, a lot of men are going that way because they feel like it's rejuvenated, like it's a brand new
vagina. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that too. But I mean, if you look on, men who are, interested in transgender, we talked about that in my psychology classes. We've talked about that in, among friends. I've talked about it with my mom and my dad, about there is a astronomical rate of men throughout the United States and the world who are really interested in transgender and consider themselves to be straight, and women too. And so for people who may not, understand the whole complexity of sexuality and stuff, they're not looking at the gray areas in between. They're just looking at, hey, God created a man, God created a woman, you're going to be with a man or a woman, all that other stuff. That's funny business. I ain't with that. If you with a man who's acting like a female and dresses up like a female, that's still a man. You gay. They don't see any gray lines that you a straight guy who's just messing with a transgender woman, even though the transgender woman may look like a real woman. They don't see that. So the complexities of someone's capacity to understand human sexuality, it goes out the window when we talk about, for some people, when we talk about this issue, because people are not trying to see any gray areas with, transgender, how you feel on the inside versus, what the Bible says or what is considered the traditional way, especially here in the United States.
Well, I think this is fascinating, honey, because this woman is being cheated on, and that's her second concern. Her first concern is how mad should she be, because is he gay or is he bisexual? I think there's a lot of foolishness going on with that, and not because, and I don't want to disrespect transgender people. I find this to be very liberating for, different lifestyles. So I'm glad that they're having, their time to, have more people understand, have their civil rights. And so I'm not diminishing, that lifestyle. But I just think in terms of the example, the letter that you read, that is pure foolishness, because she should be, honest with herself, this woman who's in this relationship, that her relationship is half-assed at best. So, that's my one point about that. That's just, unfortunate that she can't be honest with herself. And just in terms of, being transgendered and are you gay, are you straight? I think the transgender person, Jennifer brought up a good point, like Chaz sees himself as a man. So I don't think, he sees himself as gay, because that former person, especially if I had the organ change, that doesn't exist anymore. So I think the question more or less lies with the lover of that person, whether they consider themselves to be straight or gay. And the last thing I'll say is, I do think you mentioned it a little bit. I want to hit it directly that, sexuality is fluid. I know everybody doesn't agree with that, particularly people who come from some fundamentalist or whatever religious background. But in my opinion, it's fluid. And so I think that for the most part, it's just one expression of our sexuality in terms of who we have sex with. There's other expressions that we should entertain as well. It's not just about who I'm sleeping with, but who I want to love, my sensuality as well. So I just think that there's a lot at play when we talk about this.
You're absolutely right. There is a lot at play when we talk about issues like this, and several people, they have, made references, stating that they don't agree, with, people who are attracted to transgenders and, things like that, that they consider that still, you are, gay. And when we have this particular case that, brought this subject back out, with the young lady, Denise, you know the case you were talking about, the young lady who was in Kendra, who's in the news now with her husband and the former football player who was caught, you know, cheating with a transgender woman.
Right.
A lot of people are into that.
Right. And I'm going to go back to what Zahar said. Stop taking away people's truth with this. Can I take them to counseling? Can I do this? Can I do that? Allow people to be who they want to be, who they feel they should be. And if we do that, we will save ourselves a lot of heartbreak as well.
Hmm. And the reason why the lady who was on
Because
that,
what's your problem that you can't move on?
Yes. Why are you trying to piece together some
Somebody
broken
else's
ass
stuff.
relationship? You know, yeah.
yeah, and I was skimming through that letter, but one of the things that Annalisa wrote in that letter was that, you know, the boyfriend still wants to be with her, and he told her that it's a problem, issue rather, that he could work out by himself. And she went on in the letter, which I didn't get to state that that issue is something that he's had for 8 years now, and if he hasn't kicked it in 8 years, she doesn't want to marry him, and he continues to sleep with transgender women. So she does want out, but he's assuring her that it's something,
Yeah.
you know, that he's just going to just for, you know, like he said, oral
Yeah.
sex. And that's
It bruised her ego, if anything, because she doesn't know where to go from now. Because like Zahar said, you cheated, whether it was a cat, dog, frog, man or woman, you cheated. That's the first thing. So you just threw that all out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's considered cheating. So would you feel, how would you ladies feel? You know, because I'm sure a guy, you know, well, I don't know how a guy would feel if a woman cheated with a transgender. You know, I don't know. I never thought about that. But usually this is more common.
I would feel you just don't want me. Point blank, period. You don't want me.
That's right. I'm not enough. I don't care
Right.
who it is.
Regardless
Yeah.
on, again, what it is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
You would feel that they won't. It wouldn't bruise your ego, the fact that it was a transgender male, or you know that wouldn't. A
They're
transgender
cute. Have you seen some lately? Because some of them
yeah.
are very beautiful.
Exactly.
The one that's on Instagram, I think King Maya, whatever. That man or that person is gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So no, it wouldn't bruise my ego. People are beautiful inside and out, and some things attract different people. And again, that probably was that person's truth, and they're finally able to accept that or act on that or whatever.
Well, here's another thing we're going to get into is that why do so many people, especially in the black community, because we don't talk about sex and sexuality, you know, on any kind of scale. I mean, it's hard enough for us to just talk about, you know, heterosexual sex and stuff like that with getting, you know, people checked out for HIV, AIDS, all those different kind of STDs and everything. And because, you know, a lot of black people are traditionally, you know, fundamentally, you know, religious. We're deep into religion. But if you look at BET, you would think different. But there are so many people who in the black community, we can't have a discussion like this because they don't see, oh, that's nasty. Being transgender is nasty. Being lesbian is nasty. Being gay is nasty. That's other to us. But yet we'll try to, you know, we'll sit and try to understand the plight of, you know, a woman who has 10 kids, boyfriend in jail and stuff. Like, it's stuff like that we're comfortable with dealing with, but we let people who are the other, like, oh, that defames the black community. They not real, like, almost like they're not really black people. Like, we set ourselves aside, like that's white people issue. That ain't got nothing to do with us. When a lot of this is going on throughout our community and even in some of our jails and prisons as well, which houses a lot of black and Latino people.
Yeah, I think you're right about the stigma that is in the black community when it comes to LGBTQ people. And I think, you know, shows like this, you know, thank God for Dawson and Denise show, really help us. They really help us open up the conversation. And I just, for one, you know, am so happy that, you know, different wisdom paths are opening up where you don't have to be religious, but you can have this super, you know, amazing spiritual life. I'm so happy that I live in, you know, the 21st century because, you know, these old biblical truths, how many times do we have to see that it was all types of people in the Bible, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just ignore that part and we only want to talk about marriage between a husband or a wife, or we never talk about how marriage can be an institution in a prison. You know, we never talk about that. We often do not talk about it. I won't say never. So I just think, to me, it's so funny, and I'm just so happy I'm liberated from some of those traditional and, like I said, fundamentalist beliefs, because there's so many ways, Dawson, to show up in this world. And if you keep acting like, you know, marriage is between a man and a woman, not a man and a man that used to be a man, and, you know, like, I mean, it is here, it is real. So I'm just happy, like I said, you know, some of us are willing to let, you know, the world grow and change, evolution happen, you know. At least some people are allowing that evolution to happen, because it's going to happen regardless. But, you know, make people's lives a little bit easier by trying to understand. You don't have to like what they do, but, you know, who are you to say, you know, they're wrong?
And like my shirt, people fear what they don't know, and the only way for them to defend it is to shut it down, or is to talk bad about it, instead of, like you're saying, trying to understand it, or trying to, like you say, if you don't like it, sit in over there and just be quiet. But you don't have to make me seem like I'm the only one going to hell when you're around here doing another type of sin, because
exactly,
you're not married, you're still sleeping with this dude that's an all the way dude. So I don't get it.
Oh man, I agree with you. But you know, within our community, within Black people and Hispanic people, white people too, you know, in God we trust. I mean, we are a nation that believes in God. But
and the trends we follow, and that's what we do. Whatever's popular, whatever's going on, or whatever, you know, they tell us to do, we do it. So when they finally tell us that it's okay to love the transgenders and everything else, then that's when we'll start. You know what I mean? And it's sad.
Well, we have a different approach to this. I mean, we're speaking more liberal, like people are who they are, accept people love them who they are. But we know within Black community and some Latino communities, but Black people, and you know, I heard somebody say, actually it was Bishop JT talked about, you know, he was talking about Dr. Mark Lamont Hill about the Eddie Long situation on the Huffington Post Live. You guys can go on his website and see that. Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, that was a brilliant interview just recently. With Bishop J.
He is so good at what he does.
He does. And he basically, because Dr. Mark Lamont Hill was saying, you know, how can you lead, speaking of Bishop Eddie Long, lead a march saying you're going to hate gay people, but then the accusations come that you were having, you know, basically intercourse sex with, you know, young boys. And Bishop Jake said, you know, how we have to look at the whole person. What was his childhood like? What was his mother like?
Right.
Where did he come from? How is his marriage like? What things are he dealing with? We can't just compartmentalize a person, because people do all kind of things. But one of the things I wanted to pull from that is Bishop Jake stated that we as Black people have come too far and we have no room to be arrogant. And I was just like, I really thought about that, because we have been oppressed. And for us to take our oppressed selves and then try to oppress and depict other people, because you know, we don't understand how they live, and we're still kind of
exactly. And that's the point. And we know we get all the backlash, and you can't compare the two to civil rights or whatever. But that's the part I don't understand. You know what it is, or your ancestors knew what it was to have to overcome something, or to have to be punished for what you are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And that's whether being born that way or choose to live that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I agree with that. Go ahead, Zara.
I like Jake's. You know, I'm a fan of a lot of his sermons, but on this note, I think he was just defending a fellow, you know, preacher, a fellow pastor, because I've heard him preach long and strong about marriage being between a man and a woman. You know, these very moral, you know, the moral code police, you know, I've heard him preach about that. And obviously that's not shocking because of what he does, you know. So
exactly.
this kind of sounds like, you know, to me, you know, he defended home team, which is okay, but I just want to call it what it is. You know?
Exactly. You're absolutely right. And that's what Dr. Mark Lamont said. He was like, well, if I was, a gym coach and I'm preaching, doing a march against Twinkies, eating Twinkies, and you catch me in the back, in the back of the gym just stuffing Twinkies, and Bishop Jakes is like, yeah, I understand that. And he did disagree with Bishop Jakes on that, which I did as well, because, of course, he's going to take up for Bishop Eddie Long. But the thing is, I get what he was saying is, some black people acting like we've always had it, top, that we were always privileged, and that we can't understand the plights of other people throughout this country because we get a little rights and things like that. I mean, things are not, totally good for us. I mean, we could look at, the thing with the Donald Sterling incident, the Trayvon Martin case. If that had happened to white people or Jewish, anybody else, that would have been solved. And then our response to that as black people, the Jewish people, if Trayvon Martin was white, if they were Jewish or maybe Hispanic too, this case would still be going on. I mean, we would have not, there would have just been still an uprise, but it just seems when it comes to, and I know I'm kind of getting off subject here, but when it comes to issues dealing with black people, it's like you treat us any kind of way, you can do anything to us and we're okay. But when we don't like something, we're going to go hard on it, preach on it in church and dog them out. But yet we can't take that same energy and get laws passed to help our family live better lives. And to me, that's just complete insanity. That's insanity.
I'm sorry, I have to respectfully disagree, Dawson.
Go ahead.
I think we always marching about something. I think we definitely get out there and defend, what we consider to be black culture. So I think we get out there, but I actually think you mentioned it also. It's two different, subjects, if you ask me, because on the one hand, I think the black people who disagreed, who didn't defend Eddie Long, are religious. So I just think it has to do with, they thought, marriages between a man and a woman, that, being heterosexual is the way of God. If God had to, choose it, he would choose heterosexual. So I think that was their beef, not supporting a fellow Black American, but not supporting gay. And so to me, that tells you everything you need to know, that, at the end of the day, and my religious code trumps, how I should actually treat people, and those things are just, those things are completely incompatible. It's your religious code should help you treat people well, not vice versa. So there's so much wrong with that.
I see what you're saying. You're absolutely right. Because some people, there are some people who feel if you don't go to their church, they can't love you and treat you right. So, I understand that totally. I understand that. Well, that's our little talk on this right here. I think people are who they are, no matter what you are. There are people who are, as we can see it now, there are so many people of different, of other, of questioning throughout the world. So to think that things have to be like it was when my grandma and granddaddy and great grandma and granddaddy was here, life is ever changing, the world is ever changing, and people, are being who they are. They don't have the same fears and phobias that their forefathers had, or many that their grandparents and parents have had, and they're living their lives, the best they know how.
Yeah, we should allow them to.
And we should allow them to. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us, our viewers who are looking in on Google Hangout. We appreciate that, and we'll be right back for our next subject on Section 8 housing. Black and Latinos ruining your neighborhood.
That is so terrible. That is so terrible.
We'll be right back. Join us in a minute.